Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Lazio Lounge. I'm Vittorio Campanile, with me again, Alasdair McKenzie. Alasdair, I don't know, happy for the point or disappointed because we didn't win the match against Atalanta?
Definitely disappointed. I think we were all hoping that with 2 home games left of the season that we'd be able to take maximum points from them, and it would have been very nice to have kept that 4-point cushion over Inter as well. But on the flip side, I think the way that the game went today, and the chances that Atalanta created against what we created, you have to be pretty happy that we've taken anything from this game.
Yeah, I don't know what happened today. Atalanta is a very tough team. That's something we already know. But Lazio didn't play as Lazio. And today there were probably the biggest attendance in the season, 42,000 people at the Stadio Olimpico today. So, the fans cheered, etc. But it was, from the beginning, a different Lazio. The Atalanta scored after 2 minutes and was an incredible mistake. I think Luis Alberto and Leiva lost the ball in midfield, and immediately Atalanta was able to score. And from there, Lazio had a couple of minutes where they played as the team we knew, but apart from that, it was a terrible performance from generally pretty much every player, I would say.
I'd say the honourable exception there is Strakosha, who we have to thank for actually getting us a point today. He made a few really good saves. But I think I found it to be quite a strange match, because I was saying this just before we came on air, but it was a game in which Lazio never seemed to take responsibility, get on the front foot and dictate the tempo. We just didn't really play within the structure that we usually do. And I think you could tell that by the way we were defending, which was absolutely horrific, even by our own standards, especially the opening 15 minutes or so. And the complete inability to create many chances of note at the other end as well. I think the midfield tonight all have to have a look at themselves, because they were completely outplayed in the middle of the park by Atalanta today. And that's probably the contributing factor to how the game went. So, it's good to have taken a point from this match, but there's plenty to be concerned about in terms of the performance.
Yeah, you're right. And the surprising thing is, in the central midfield, Lazio should have had one man in advantage, because Lazio was playing with a classic 3-5-2, while Atalanta was playing with a 3-4-2. So it should have been one player free. Instead, you could never see it. Murgia played really bad. Milinkovic-Savic was the only one, I think, that tried to do something. And, we always praised Leiva, but today he was maybe the worst Lazio player in the pitch. I don't know, but he was pretty much invisible. And to add to this, I think the goal of Atalanta, I have to see it, but comes from a miscommunication between him and Luis Alberto. So I think where Lazio should have won the match, it's where they lost it, in the central midfield. And to add to this, Luis Alberto got injured. So, the list of injured key player gets longer and longer in a key moment of the season, which is not good.
Yeah, that's one of the most worrying things about the whole match. We could already see the impact that losing those 3 players who are already out, Radu, Parolo and Immobile, you could already tell that their absence was being felt by the team. And you mentioned the kind of communication mix-up there. There were quite a few of those going on, particularly at the start of the game, and that's a strange thing. And I wonder if that is to do with the fact that they're missing those leaders on the pitch. And I agree about Lucas. I don't think he had a particularly good game today, and we need him to be on top of his game when we're missing those more experienced players. So I don't know if we'll hear anything about Alberto's injury while we're recording, but we really have to hope that it's not too serious, because I thought Anderson as well today was really wasteful when he came on. He's trying to do everything by himself, and we're really, getting down to the bare bones now if we've lost him as well.
Yeah, that's honestly a very good point. I thought Felipe Anderson was not the only player who tried to win the match on his own. And as usually happens when you try to do these things, is you end doing worse. Felipe Anderson did a lot of good things, but that finished it badly, Maybe was able to dribble past a player and then make the wrong assist or lose the ball just afterwards. And I thought there was a lot of confusion. So I was surprised, a player like Lucas Leiva should have calmed the team, bring pace, bring tranquility a little bit to the rest of the team. Instead, he disappeared like the others, and so it was really concerning. Obviously, Atalanta, as you said, Wednesday was coming from a long streak of undefeated match. I think in the last away game, only Juventus was able to beat Atalanta. So we knew it wasn't an easy game. I thought this would be the most challenging game of the last Lazio matches, but I was hoping that the team would have performed better, knowing that if you have won this one and the next one, it would be over. Instead, I didn't see that extra effort today from Lazio players, so I don't know what to think about it.
Yeah, it's a hard one to judge. I mean, there was a lot of it was just so desperate as well. I mentioned Strakosha before, but some of the saves he had to pull off tonight were brilliant, but we shouldn't be in that position. It required something miraculous like that to prevent conceding a goal. Bastos deserves credit for an amazing block he performed to prevent a goal as well, but there were just far too many individual errors throughout the team, and just basic things like the space that was given to Papu Gomez and Ilicic when he came on. I just could not believe the amount of space and time those guys were being given on the ball, and surely that's something you have to prepare for when you're taking on Atalanta, because you know that they're dangerous players. Not
only Ilicic always scores against Lazio, so he's dangerous against us, but so I think in terms of the preparation for this game, they must, they've had a week. They must have been able to have a proper look at this Atalanta team. But from what we saw on the pitch tonight, I think they were just so badly prepared for the game. And that's, I think it was Caicedo who was interviewed at half-time, and that's what he said. He said that their approach had been wrong, and they come into this game and started so badly and then had to respond. So it was a bit concerning to see such a big game, like you said, a huge crowd turning up for them, and just starting that badly and not being able to recover properly. Yeah, it looks like it's a growing strain for adductor tight strain for Luis Alberto. This is what it looks like Mediaset said, so the season should be over for him. Disappointed because he was one of the best players on the pitch, I would say. He made an incredible assist, but unfortunately these things happen. Let's not forget that I think he didn't train till Thursday this week because they wanted to preserve him for the rest of the season. It didn't work out, unfortunately. Felipe Anderson is going to play the rest of the match of this season, I believe.
Yeah, and that's us lost the top scorer in Italy and the top assist provider in Italy, in Europe now, I think, actually, Alberto. So it's it's not difficult to emphasise quite how crucial those guys are to this team. It's a real that's devastating news, actually, that he's going to be out the rest of the season. But we just have, it's 2 more games, and like you said before, you just want to see it from the players. Like, this is it, really. So we just want to see 100% from everyone, because I don't feel like we really got that today.
No, no. Nigel Gunn on Facebook, not easy playing in this Atalanta side, and credit to them for outplaying us. I don't like to give excuses, but without Ciro and Luis Alberto, it's going to be very, very hard. Whatever it is, the boys need our supports, and if you are a Laziale, get behind the team. This is the most concerning point, I think, because you have two very important matches where Lazio have to win, and you're going to play them probably without the two best players of the season for Lazio, Ciro Immobile and Luis Alberto. So it's going to be really tough. Adding to this, Crotone needs to win, because otherwise they are relegated pretty much. So it's going to be, for both teams, really important to win next match. So I don't know what you think, but situation get very difficult now.
Yeah, it's a shame as well, because obviously the Inter game was always lined up to be a big one, but we were actually, before the game tonight, in a position where we could have ended up going into that game already knowing we were in the Champions League. And it strikes fear into my heart thinking about the idea of having a playoff for the Champions League, essentially. It's not a situation that I'm very excited about. But yeah, the Crotone game has to be the next focus, obviously, and it's another difficult game. Also hope for a good result from Cagliari tonight as well. I mean, they're another team fighting for their lives, so yeah, well, you never know.
Yeah, but last Wednesday I said that Udinese would have been a challenge for Inter, and Udinese is fighting for the relegation. They didn't even start playing today. They didn't even try, So I'm sure that Cagliari will be pretty much the same. An easy match, unfortunately. But this is what we have to do. Lazio had the chance. You don't have to blame the other teams. If Lazio won today, and against Crotone, it would be over. Instead, it's going to be the decisive match against Inter, which is concerning because maybe Ciro Immobile is going to recover, but you don't know how he's going to play. Luis Alberto is not going to be there. You don't know if Parolo Rado will be able to play and what type of performance. And the team today was very tired. I know it was pretty hot, but it was hot even for Atalanta, and they play much better than us. Walid Mohamed on Twitter: I blame Inzaghi for this poor Lazio today. Starting 11 was wrong. Why Murcia? Shouldn't we start Lukaku on the wing and Lulic in midfield? Why did he also take off Caicedo? Was he injured? Also Ramos? I know Bastos had a good game, but still lost 2 subs. Caicedo had cramps, so he has to be subbed. So that's one of the reasons. We said it, Murcia didn't play well at all today. But to be honest with you, even when Lukaku came in, Lukaku didn't play well. So you don't know if things would have changed if Lukaku would have started. Ramos, he was subbed because I think Inzaghi was concerned that he could get a second yellow card. I don't know, Alasdair, if you agree.
Yeah, definitely agree about Ramos. He put in quite a late challenge when he was already on the yellow, and I think that made Inzaghi quite fearful about the idea of a team that already wasn't performing very well going down to 10 men. So I think that was probably quite a smart move, actually. Bastos, yeah, I mean, he did pretty well, actually. I thought once he came on, it made a fantastic block. But you never know what you're going to get with him. So as a substitution, it can be quite a worrying one. In terms of Inzaghi taking the blame for it, I can see where he's coming from. I wouldn't blame Inzaghi for the performance entirely, though, because I think for me, a lot of it was just down to individuals not really taking responsibility, and all these individual errors that littered the game. I don't think you can blame Inzaghi for. He's not responsible for the way the goal was conceded, and basically the sloppiness, I call it, of the way that Lazio played and their inability to really link things together. I said in our preview show on Wednesday that I also wanted to see Lulic start in the middle and put Lukaku on the left, and I stand by that even more now, I think, because especially with the absence of Parolo, I think it makes a big difference to have your captain in the middle of the park, where maybe he can be a bit more influential than being out on the left wing. So for the trip to Crotone, I don't think Moja's done enough for me to keep his place. I would quite like to see Lulic go in there.
Yeah, it's true that Parolo could recover for Crotone, but you never know in which condition, if he's able to start or just go on the bench. And this week is going to be key to decide. But it's not a nice situation. All these injured players. I think today we saw that. What's the problem with Lazio? The bench is not talented enough to cope with all those competition. I don't know what you think about Caicedo. Yes, he scored, but apart from that, he didn't do pretty much nothing. And so when you need to win, you need a striker to put it in and to play well. He had the chance and he didn't do it. And this tells you that this summer you need someone better to replace Immobile and to give a break to Ciro Immobile.
Yeah, I mean, we've been saying that all year. It's repeating ourselves a lot, but it's if we're going to look for a silver lining or about this, it's probably quite a telling time of year for these players to be getting injuries, because it will, just before the transfer market opens, it's underlining that point to Lotito and Tare. So they should know that, obviously, but especially when we're going into a Champions League campaign, they're going to have the evidence right in front of them that this squad needs a lot more quality.
Well, De Laurentiis yesterday made an interview with Gazzetta dello Sport and said a couple of things interesting. One is that they already blocked a striker that have scored 20 goals and he's abroad, so it's not in Italy. This tells you that the other teams are already moving. I hope Iglitare did the same, because we know that we need a player there. We know that Lazio needs a striker, a central defender to replace De Vrij. So it's important that Tare and Lotito are already moving for the next season. Anyway it ends, even if we don't reach the Champions League spot, I think Lazio need a player like that there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's obviously for the Champions League, it's even more pressing, I suppose, in terms of the quality of opposition you're up against. But like you say, even if we don't get there, it doesn't. We're still in for a long season, competing in 3 competitions, so it's still going to be a problem. And Ciro Immobile is going to be a year older as well, so you never know. We've been very lucky with Ciro this season in terms of injuries. Given the way he plays, how he basically goes 100% in every game, and the amount of running he does, the fact that he's away on international duty with Italy throughout the season as well, it's been amazing really how few games he's missed and the lack of injuries he's had. So we can't rely on that happening again. And I think everyone's probably already made up their mind about Caicedo. But tonight we got even more evidence of how little he really has to offer. Despite, to be fair, he did score a goal. So I'll give him that. Yeah,
probably if you were there, you would have scored as well.
I don't know about that.
It was so easy. But as you said, we've been really lucky to have Ciro Immobile playing all those matches, because he played a lot and he has been terrific. But you cannot expect this to happen even next season. You need other replacement. And so I hope, De Laurentiis already moved. I hope Tare did the same without telling anybody, because Lazio need a striker and a top defender. The other interesting thing De Laurentiis said was about the manager. He said that Sarri could leave, and if it happens, he already has some names from abroad, and said that he could choose, even in Italy, take Giampaolo or Simone Inzaghi. Now, I don't believe Simone Inzaghi is going to leave Lazio to go to Napoli, even if Lazio doesn't reach the Champions League spot. But, it was annoying to hear a president of another team talking about Lazio manager like that. If Sarri leaves, then we can take a Simone Inzaghi.
Yeah. I wouldn't pay too much attention to him, to be honest. I think it's inevitable, that Inzaghi's going to be linked with other clubs, even if that's not someone linking him. He's actually been talked about by the president. It's a bit different, but like I said, I said this earlier on in the season, but I think the whole quality of depth in the squad and transfer strategy has an impact on that as well. I don't think Inzaghi's in a position where he's going to be thinking about leaving, but I think if we go through another summer and he comes out the end of it with frustrations about how the transfer dealings have gone, then that's the kind of that's the kind of frustration that will eventually end up in him leaving the club. If he demands for his squad to be taken to the next level and doesn't get that support. He was unhappy last season about Wesley Holt leaving and not being replaced. So we'll see what happens this season. I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon, but I think that could be the kind of thing that would eventually push him over the edge.
You think so?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, if you're wanting to create I hate the word project because it's so overused, but I'll use it here. If you're wanting to build this club up from being a team that's going in and out of Europe and having a good season and then an average season, and you're wanting to build that in the way that Inzaghi has in the last couple of years, he's managed to get consistency out of this team and improve on what came before. And he's the first coach to achieve that in the Lotito era, arguably. And the Champions League is the next step. So for Lazio to keep progressing upwards and do whatever we all want to see happen, which is be competing for the Scudetto instead of just for European places, that does require investment. And he has a very clear idea of how he wants his team to play and a very clear set of abilities that he needs in his team. So if he's not given that, I could understand why he wouldn't be happy. It's a big if, but I think it's a huge thing for Lotito and Tari to get right, is not only to bring in the players we need, but to keep Inzaghi happy that they're doing everything they can to give him what he needs.
Yep, I agree on this point. Inzaghi has proved to be a great manager. There is interest, even Juventus is looking at him. He said that his dream job is managing Lazio, but I can understand that, if good players doesn't arrive, it doesn't allow Lazio to make the next step forward, to compete for the Champions League, there could be some consequences. And that's why, and we said it often on this show, that this summer is really fundamental for Lazio, because it's a good squad. That there are quality players that have been already linked with other clubs. We're going to talk about Milinkovic-Savic later. De Vrij is leaving. That's very unlucky. Lazio need to replace him with quality players and find other players to build a better team around them. So, and this season, Lazio has the money, even if they don't qualify for the Champions League. Lazio has a lot of money to spend, so we are expecting Lotito and Tari to spend this money for quality player. Now, I don't know Pedro Neto if he'll ever turn out to be a star, a champion, the new Ronaldo, but Lazio need quality players to help the team improve. Said this, Arvid suggested, when was it? I think Friday. What about Gabbiadini? Do you think he could be a valid replacement for Ciro Immobile? He said Consiglia and Gabbiadini, and maybe Acerbi for De Vrij.
Yeah, I mean, I quite like those suggestions. It ticks the boxes in terms of what we were discussing Wednesday as well about the squad list and needing to get some more Italian players in the squad. I think Gabbiadini's an interesting option just because he's quite versatile up front as well and could play in a number of different roles. But he has played in Serie A, obviously. He's got decent calibre of experience. Things haven't gone so well for him at Southampton this season, but if Southampton go down, then he would be available for a cut price. So I don't think it's the worst idea in the world. I think a Cherby is also not a bad idea in terms of De Vrij replacement. We spoke before about this, didn't we, in terms of Lazio not buying within Serie A enough. I think it would be possible to get players like that without having to spend too much money on them. Consigli, I think, is a bit different because I don't think he'd be happy to be a number two to Strakosha, and I can't really see Strakosha being happy about being moved to a number two position either. So I'm not too sure about that one, but yeah, the other two I'd be on board with. I think they could be quite smart signings.
Yes, I think Gabbiadini could turn out to be another Ciro Immobile, a player who has talent, who have shown his talent at Sampdoria, and then didn't receive Gabbiadini is the type of player who need to feel the trust of the manager, of the rest of the squad to perform, and this didn't happen at Napoli, obviously. So he could turn out to be a very good player, especially if he comes up as a replacement of Ciro Immobile. I think they can also play together. Gabbiadini can play near Ciro Immobile, so that would be a good move. Consigli, I don't think he's coming to be a substitute for Strakosha. It would be great if it happens. I think Strakosha is a rising goalkeeper. He needs to play, and he showed it today again. He has been really good. And Acerbi, that could be a cheap option in my opinion. Yes, not bad to have him, but if De Vrij leaves, I want something better if possible. And again, as I said before, Lazio has the money, so I'm expecting to see a big spend, especially if you get Gabbiadini. I don't think that's going to cost you that much, so you have a lot of money to spend somewhere else. And then we have to talk about Milinkovic-Savic because, not a big surprise. There are a lot of rumors popping out again in this part of the season about Milinkovic-Savic. From UK, there was this rumor of Manchester United finding the agreement with Milinkovic-Savic, 90 million euros. The manager of Milinkovic-Savic spoke yesterday and said this is completely false. There hasn't been any talk, any discussion yet about deals or transfer of Milinkovic-Savic. He's focused only on the Champions League. But obviously, there are these rumors because a lot of clubs are interested in that player like that. But at the moment, there's nothing done. So again, other rumors that are completely false after the one of Tottenham last week, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, I saw the story in the Sun today, but they've been writing stories like this for about half a year now, so I don't think it's worth paying too much attention to. And yeah, like you said, his agent came out and denied it anyway. So, but I mean that is going to be our summer. We have to get ready for this because the entire next few months is just going to be Sergei rumors and various people telling us he's signed deals and had agreements with various clubs. So just have to wait and see.
The good thing is it's ending earlier this time. So end of half of August it will be over. Because the transfer market will close in England even earlier, I think. So, it will finish earlier than expected.
Yeah, and then the same thing will just start again for the January transfer market. So. The way of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Inzaghi spoke to the TV. He said we didn't start the match well, but it was an important draw against a very tough opponent that maybe deserved more. Now we're going to focus on the next match. Immobile dependent? No. I have a big team. I don't agree. Obviously, Ciro is, with his characteristics, is a guarantee. Caicedo did anyway a good match. Strakosha, in the last year and a half, he improved a lot. Voices on my future. I'm only thinking about the next two matches. I said it already. Lazio is my home, and I hope to stay here a long time. So this was Inzaghi to the TV. Afterwards, they're going to come the longer interview, the press release of Simone Inzaghi. I'm not sure Caicedo did a great match, honestly, to be honest with you. We said this already. I thought De Vrij was amazing today. I think if Lazio didn't allow another goal, concede another goal, he was big credit to De Vrij. I thought Ramos and Cáceres didn't play as well as they usually did, and De Vrij stepped up today.
Yeah, I need to see the first goal again, but I was amazed by how much space there was for Barrow between Felipe and De Vrij. It was crazy how much time and space he had to just be between the two centre-backs and stop and take a shot. So I wasn't very impressed by the organisation there, but he had some good moments. I'm not convinced, obviously, that Caicedo had a good game either, but I think he needs to say things like that. He needs to be encouraging to Caicedo, because the chances are he's going to be relied on between now and the end of the season. So I think if he's going to come into the team and score a goal, then it's not the time for Inzaghi to come out and criticise his performance, probably. So I can understand that.
Yeah. Were you surprised that Inzaghi put in Lukaku when Caicedo came off instead of Nani?
Yeah, it's a bit surprising. It was a strange substitution. I think particularly because the only time we've seen the Milinkovic-Savic as a striker experiment before was during the Rome derby for the last 10 minutes when we're already down to 10 men. So it seemed a bit of a Route 1 idea, because essentially you're just putting the big man up front and putting balls in towards him. But I think you're using him in that role, you're really missing out on a lot of what he can offer and a lot of his threat, which is carrying the ball forward from deeper positions and his ability to create. You know, if he's got his back to goal all the time, it's a bit harder for him to do that. So I think Nani would have been, a more obvious replacement anyway. But at the same time, it allowed him to move Lulic into a more central position, push a bit higher up the pitch as well, which he's done pretty effectively in the last couple of games. So I don't know if that was probably part of his decision as well there.
Well, maybe he was hoping, with Lukaku on one side and Marusic on the other, they could have come better cross for the header of Milinkovic-Savic, which didn't happen because Lukaku came in and pretty much disappeared. So that was really annoying. And yes, I was surprised that Nani didn't come in. I can understand that Lazio was struggling, and so maybe Inzaghi needed some freshmen behind to stop Atalanta, which didn't happen because Lukaku came in and pretty much didn't do nothing. I thought Nani could be useful because with his speed, with Atalanta giving a lot of space, he could have put some, he could have put some pressure against Atalanta defenders today, which obviously Milinkovic-Savic couldn't do because he's not a fast player. He has other quality. But Inzaghi probably knew better how the team was doing. He saw better than us that the team was really, really struggling. And to be honest with you, I think Strakosha made two incredible saves. Otherwise, Lazio would have lost today. We said it in the last month or so that Strakosha wasn't playing great, and today he stepped up. And if Lazio is still fighting for the Champions League spot, big credit is to give to our goalkeeper.
Yeah, definitely. He was phenomenal today. I mean, that's what he does best, though, isn't it? His reactions and his agility are amazing, actually, and we've seen him do that quite often this season, making those incredible reflex saves. But a couple of them tonight were just extraordinary.
I thought the second one was unbelievable.
Yeah, and a couple of fairly heroic blocks as well, one from Bastos and then one from De Vrij. So it was quite backs to the wall defending, but good for their individual YouTube video highlight packages. They're going to get some good footage today.
Yeah, but Inzaghi said it. Strakosha in the last year and a half have grown a lot, and I totally agree. If I would have to do a ranking of the goalkeepers in Serie A, I would put him, Alisson, and Andanovic probably in the top 3 spots. I think Donnarumma didn't have a great season like Strakosha and the others. And same thing about Buffon. He didn't play that well. So, I think top 3 goalkeeper in Serie A, Strakosha is one of them. And he showed it today. And he's young.
Yeah, I think, the main concern with him is still his distribution. But I do think actually that is, we're starting to see a few more signs of improvement of him with that. He still makes some bad decisions sometimes, but I think he can hopefully get that side of his game to improve, because a lot of it's kind of decision making. So he can be coached to improve that side of his game. But I think you're right. It's been a really promising season for him, and to have a young goalkeeper as well who's at that level is a real bonus, because obviously they can go on for a long time. So Strakosha's probably got another 10, 15 years left in him. So a useful guy to have.
And he's signed till 22, if I'm not wrong. I think so, right? He renewed his contract until 22, so he should be at Lazio for a long time, hopefully. And that's a good sign, on our Spreaker channel, I find it strange that we haven't seen our Portuguese prospect play a single minute this season. We paid so much for them. And then he said, I disagree, Perin is better than Strakosha. On Perin, no, I don't agree at all. Perin is a very up and down goalkeeper. I think he makes bad mistakes. He had a better season than in the last one, but I still think Strakosha had a better season, and Perin unfortunately had a lot of bad injuries, so I think he lost a step. Talking about the Portuguese prospect, we have to talk about another disappointing, maybe even worse than the match of today, because Lazio Primavera got relegated, and if I'm not wrong, in the last 5-6 match, Pedro Neto played in these matches. Him and the other Portuguese played, and the fact that they weren't able to contribute that much, I don't know, is it a point of concern, or is something that you can expect?
Well, the Primavera is quite hard to judge, I think, them going into that situation, because the whole thing, the whole team, the whole structure seems like it's got serious problems. So I think it would be quite harsh to judge Neto not having an ability to shine in that team, because the whole season's been a complete disaster. Obviously, they've, as of yesterday, been relegated.
Officially, yep.
Officially, with 2 games to go,
yep.
Which is incredible if you think that this is a youth system. Obviously, the players move on every year and get older, but this is a youth system that's produced 2 Coppa Italia wins and a Scudetto win in the last 5 years. So it's quite hard to put a finger on exactly what's gone wrong this season, and the Primavera system has changed as well into a national league instead of a series of regionalised groups. So it's become a more difficult league, but Lazio should still be nowhere near relegation. And not only with the help as well, it should be said of Pedro Neto you just mentioned, but also some of the first team players. Murgia was in there recently, and Di Gennaro's had some games at the youth team level, and Creco, and they've been given a hand by some first team players as things have gone along, and it doesn't seem to have helped. So that whole team needs looked at by the sounds of things.
And to add to this, Lazio beat away Inter, who lost only another match at home this season against AC Milan, and beat away Juventus, again another top team. So it's hard to tell, You don't beat the top 2 teams of the league and then get relegated with 2 matches in advance, Bonacina said the team wasn't able to perform as they do because, they weren't prepared to fight for the relegation. I think that could be a reason why. And there have been a lot of changes compared to last year. The Primavera was completely renovated. There were, I think, a lot of players younger than their age. This is something that Lazio is trying to do in all the leagues with the new responsible of the youth academy. Uh, and the thing is, you come in a team that is not convinced that it's not performing well, and even if you are a top player like Pedro Neto, probably can make the difference there. It's tough because you have other 10 players, and what happened a lot this season was at the first chance the other team was scoring. Every time the other team had a chance, Lazio was starting the match down 1-0. So the important thing is to remember that Lazio Primavera doesn't have to win matches or leagues. They have to build players that can make a difference in the first squad. So that's important. But obviously for an important team like Lazio getting relegated, the first season that relegation starts, it's not really positive.
Yeah, and I think the most concerning thing for me is the what you hear, the reports you hear about the actual attitude of these players as well being a problem, and there not being a good kind of unity in the team. And I think especially for young players, they really need to be staying humble and focused on the prospect of getting into the first team. So to be in a situation where you're questioning the characters of these kids when they've not achieved anything yet, it's not really not very promising for the future. But again, we're the crazy situation we might end up in now is that if we qualify for the Champions League, our youth team gets put into the UEFA Youth League, so which I think would be the first time ever. So you've got a situation where you've got a youth team that's been relegated, isn't playing in the top Primavera stage in Italy, but is in the Champions League for youth teams at the same time.
Yeah, that would be amazing. I don't know if it's going to work out like this season, but I thought it was honestly very unfair because when Lazio won the Scudetto, it didn't play the Youth Champions League because obviously the first squad didn't qualify for the Champions League, so that's disappointing. But it could happen that Lotito and Tarek go and buy other young players for reinforce the Primavera next summer. It could happen. I know that Lazio do. There is this big interest, because this summer Lazio bought the goalkeeper that is considered the new Donnarumma. He's 15 or 16 years old. He was playing with Milan. He was on loan to Ancona, and instead of going back to Milan, he went to Lazio because the manager of the youth academy of Milan this summer went to Lazio, so he was able to bring him with him. So I think next year he's going to be playing with the Primavera, so that's going to be interesting. And usually Tare is able to buy very young players that play 1 year in the Primavera and then move to the first squad. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens if Lazio goes to the Champions League spot.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully if they are looking to reinforce the team and bring in some more quality youth players in the summer, that can be a good selling point as well. It's the benefits of qualifying for the Champions League at first team level go a lot further, obviously, than just to the first team. So it's quite clear that things do need to change at that level after what's happened this season. I already saw reports that Bonatti might be asked to come back in again, so perhaps that could be a good thing. It can only be better though, really, than what's been going on this year.
Yeah, it cannot be as worse as last season, and Bonatti was considered a very good manager a couple of years ago. So we're gonna see. I think he still has 1 year contract. So at the moment he's the Lazio manager for the youth academy. It's going to be curious to see how many players are going to get promoted to the first squad. As we said, there are those Portuguese players, Pedro Neto, who did quite well, and Bruno Jordao that did decent with the Primavera. Obviously, they weren't able to change the situation and help Lazio getting promoted, but Pedro Neto scored against Inter last Saturday, so I think the important thing is bring players to the first squad that are valuable players that can make the difference. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, obviously there's a lot of excitement and buzz around these Portuguese kids since last summer. So yeah, I do agree. It would be nice to see something from them next season, hopefully. I'm not too surprised. I think I said when they first arrived, I didn't really expect them to have too much first team involvement, and it's turned out that way. So I think it's a good way of going, is not to rush kids in of that age who are still very young, and let them have the time to develop. It's just a shame that they've not really been able to develop in the Primavera team this year because it's been such a disaster of a season.
Yeah, I think looking at the injury list, they're going to be called for Crotone, probably, because we don't have many other players left in there. So I think Nani would be the first sub, and Pedro Neto would be the second. But yeah, you said it, to be honest, all the season that you didn't expect them to play. The only chance they had, I thought, was for the first leg of Coppa Italia.
Yeah.
There I was a little bit surprised he didn't get any minutes. But at that time, Lazio still had a lot of players available that didn't play a lot of minutes. So the Di Gennaro, etc., had to play there.
Yeah, and that was against Cittadella, so it wasn't. It's not a friendly game. You are playing a team of a decent ability, so you don't want to risk getting dumped out of the competition, embarrassing yourself by playing a completely untested team as well. So I think that was a good opportunity to give a bit of squad rotation and some guys who don't get as many games as the first team players. But at the same time, I think Inzaghi did the right thing by not throwing in a bunch of youth players for a test against a team that's actually ended up having a good season in Serie B, and we're pushing for the playoffs. I don't know if they've got there or not, but they've been up on that end of the table anyway.
Yes, I think this summer is going to be really important for them. I hope they're going to be in the squad this summer, going to Aronso and play some friendly matches to see them how they perform. I think that's going to be interesting to see if their level is good enough for that stage, and presumably maybe Lazio will play more competitive friendly matches if they have to play the Champions League, and so maybe you're going to be able to see how they perform not only against average amateur team, but even maybe some better team. And I think the ideal situation is to make them play in the friendlies and this summer, and then Inzaghi make the decision, make the call if he judged them are ready for playing for Lazio or not.
Yeah, definitely. This summer is a great time to do that, and I just hope that I'm repeating myself because I said this last week, but I do hope that they manage to bring in as many players as possible before we go off to Aronso di Carore, because it's very useful for Inzaghi to actually know the squad he's got to work with and be able to make decisions based on that, instead of doing all his pre-season training and then being given a player afterwards. And like you said, the window is closing earlier, so hopefully that does encourage that to happen. But I think it would be useful for his decision-making process as well.
Yes, and let's not forget that this summer, Inzaghi pretty much played all the summer friendlies with Luis Alberto playing in the Lucas Biglia position. So it's good if you have the full squad there available to try different tactics and try the players in the role they're going to play the biggest part of the season, which didn't happen last summer. So it would be good to have all the players available, and I'm hoping that you're not going to have only the youngsters there, but the Vice Immobile, the replacement of the Rai, will come directly at the beginning of the summer training. I'm not 100% convinced this is going to happen, but I hope it's going to happen because it's going to be very important for Simone Inzaghi.
Yeah, definitely. Let's hope they can get their act together.
Yeah, because summer is important, as you were saying. it's important to try the youngster, but as well, have the new guys coming in and getting used to the training methods, the tactics, and allow Inzaghi to try different solution that he didn't try today this season. So that would be really, really important. And there is the World Cup, but I don't know how many Lazio players will be going to the World Cup this season. I hope less player possible, but now I don't remember who's going to go there. So.
Well, I mean, I suppose Milinkovic-Savic will be the main loss. Luis Alberto is possibly going to be in the Spain squad. I have to wait and see. But, yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to have a disastrous effect of completely pulling our squad apart. I think that when you look at the key players, likes of Lucas Leiva, I think he's pretty unlikely to actually get into the Brazil squad. Wallace will definitely be in the Brazil squad. Don't have to worry about that.
Absolutely.
But it's the benefit of Italy not qualifying for the tournament as well, is that they get a bit more rest over the summer.
Yeah. Hopefully, crossing fingers. That's what. Sorry, I'm not able to speak anymore. That's what's gonna happen, And it would be good for Parolo and Ciro Immobile have a summer to rest a little bit after a very, very complicated season, very busy, more than complicated season. They played so many matches that it's never easy for this type of players. Alasdair, before wrapping up the podcast, I forgot at the beginning to thank our new patron. Remember, we are on Patreon. If you like the show and want to support us, you can go to patreon.com/Lazio Lounge and you'll find us there. The membership starts to only $2 a month and you'll have access to all our content and our podcast. I have to thank Nigel Gann, Walid Mohammed, Mohammed Waid, and Adi, who subscribed to our Patreon page this week. Thank you very much. You don't know how important your support is for us. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks to everyone who's signed up. It does make a big difference to us, and hopefully will allow us as well to keep creating as much stuff as we can. So, yeah, keep it up. Spread the word.
Yeah, even because Alasdair is working on a top secret thing that maybe we're going to be able to do it before the end of the season. We don't know, so we don't announce it officially because we're working it. Right, Al?
Top secret.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You're almost giving the game away.
Yeah. So, Crotone lost. They're going to have to fight for a spot in Serie A. It's even true that Cagliari now it's relegated and they're playing Roma tonight. So, depending on what happens tonight, Crotone could be a little bit in a better position. They have 1 point. They are 1 point ahead of Cagliari. But, I was wishing that next Sunday would have been an easier match. It's not going to be. It's going to be another tough match. Honestly, Atalanta is a much better team. They're playing so great football. But Crotone has to fight, has to win to keep the dream alive. So does Lazio. So we're gonna talk next Wednesday about the preview of this next match and maybe updating on Luis Alberto and the other injured players' situation. At the moment, it looks that Parolo and Radu are the only one who could be able to play against Crotone, but we're going to see. Hopefully, Lucas Leiva and all the other players will perform better next Sunday because it's really, really important. Alasdair, do you have other stats that you forgot to say tonight before we wrap it up?
I don't think so. I think my Luis Alberto one was the only one, which is that I think as of today he's now got more assists than anyone else in Europe, or at least in Europe's top 5 leagues. So it's not the most uplifting stat maybe because now he's just been injured until the rest of the season. So, but yeah, it does kind of shine a light on what an incredible player he's been for us this year.
Yeah. Thanks to Simone Inzaghi that trusted him and gave him a chance. And I think he repay him nicely. Again, thank you, Alasdair. I know you have a very busy rest of the day, so we're going to talk Wednesday. And thank everybody for listening to the podcast and to supporting us on Patreon. Thank you very much, guys, and we're going to talk Wednesday. Bye, Al.
Cheers.